Niagara is Unreal Engine's VFX system. There are 4 components that make up a Niagara VFX system. The system is a container for everything that's needed to build an effect. Modifying system-level behaviors will modify everything contained within that effect. Emitters are where particles are generated from within the Niagara system. Emitters are used to control how particles are born, what happens as the particles age, and how the particles actually look and behave. Emitters are organized into stacks that contain groups where modules are used to complete tasks. In Niagara, modules are the basic building blocks. Modules are added to the stacks of the emitters where they are then processed from top to bottom. Parameters are the abstraction of the data from a Niagara simulation. Parameter types are assigned to the parameter to define the data represented by that parameter. The first emitter we'll learn is just using a template. Right-click in the content browser and create a new folder for your Niagara system. In the new folder, right-click and choose the FX menu and then Niagara System. Select Create an Empty System. Rename the new Niagara system and double-click to open it. Go ahead and dock this window. Right-click and add an emitter. Under the Templates tab, choose Fountain. The emitter options are color-coded red, and anything related to the particle options is color-coded green. We have multiple options to change the emitter. If we click on the spawn rate option, we can control the rate at which the particles will spawn. We can make these changes to this parameter in the Selection tab. Lower numbers mean a slower spawn rate, and higher numbers mean a faster spawn rate. If we choose the particle state for the emitter, we can change when the particles will disappear at the end of their lifetime. We can initialize particles, which allows us to change the multiple particle parameters. For instance, we can change the sprite size and rotation. In the Niagara folder, right-click and choose the FX menu and then Niagara System. Select Create an Empty System and rename the new Niagara system and double-click to open it. Right-click and add an emitter. Under the Templates tab, choose Fountain. To make our own unique particle, we need to start with a material. In the Content browser, right-click and add a new Materials folder. Right-click in the new folder and choose Material from the menu. Give your material a name. Double-click on the material to open it. Choose the Plain Primitive option since we'll be working with a 2D material. Change the blend mode from opaque to translucent. This will allow us to use a transparent material. in this case the black background of the texture. Change the shading model to unlit. This means that Unreal will only use an emissive color. I'll be using Magic 02 from Kenny's particle pack. The link is in the description. Back in the content browser, right-click and make a new folder, renaming it. Drag and drop your texture into the folder. Open the material window and right-click in the graph and search for particle color. Hold down the T key and left-click to add a texture sample node. Go back to your content browser and select your texture. Back in the material, click on the Use Selected Asset arrow. To add a multiply node, hold down the M key and left-click in the graph. This will allow us to mix the particle color and the texture sample together. Connect the RGB pin of the particle color node to the emissive color of the material node. Connect the RGBA pin, which is the alpha, to the top pin of the multiply node. Connect the red pin of the texture sample node to the bottom pin of the multiply node. It doesn't really matter if you use red, green, or blue because the texture is black and white. Connect the pin from the multiply node to the opacity of the material node. Then click on Apply and Save to save the material. Go back to the Particles window. On the Emitter node, select Sprite Renderer. This is used to define the particles as 2D sprites based on our material. Click on the Browse icon for the material and select the material. Back in the particle window, click on the Use Selected Asset for the material. If you don't want gravity to affect the particles, uncheck Gravity on the Emitter node. To allow the particles to move in multiple directions, choose Add Velocity on the Emitter node. Change the velocity mode to From Point. This means that velocity is added from an arbitrary point in space with a fall-off. We can also change the velocity speed. A low range will allow the particles to still move but stay in a relatively small area. Scale color will allow us to fade the material in on a more gradual level. You can work with the graph if you wish, but for color, it's easier to change the scale mode to RGBA linear color curve. This allows us to control the color of the material over time. The bottom color stops affect the alpha. In order to have the color at its fullest only in the center and fading at the beginning and end, we need to change the alpha color stops. Left-click and move the left color alpha stop to the right, placing it towards the center. Add a new alpha color stop on the left by left-clicking under the color bar. Double-click on the new alpha color stop and change the opacity to 0. Now we can change the color of the material. Double-click on the top left color stop and change the color. If you only want one color, copy the hex color and paste it on the right color stop. If you want multiple colors, you can change the right color stop to a new color, You can also add more color by left-clicking between the two color stops to add more color stops. To change the size of the particle, click on the particle update and search for size. Choose Scale Sprite Size to add a module to the emitter node. You can now use the graph to change the size of the particle over time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video about getting started using Niagara and UE5, then you're probably interested in VFX or game development. So if you're interested in those topics, you may enjoy this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day.